Hello, today I'm going to be looking at how you can represent poppy seed heads with fabrics and lace and various embellishments. So what I've got here first of all is I've done a background and I've put some lace on it. It's a bit of old cloth that I was using to clean up my rusty washers that I use on a lot of my seascapes, and I just felt it was too good to throw away. So I am going to use it as the background for this piece. So that's the background, and I've stitched here just using some of the fancy stitches on the sewing machine, just stitched in a few grasses and put in a couple of bits of vintage lace just to sort of break it up a little bit. And now we're going to be looking at doing different styles of poppy seed head. So if I bring you over here, I've cut out some various shapes and got a few buttons here, and if we come back over here you can see on here that I've actually marked in some lines, and those lines are going to be where the stems are going to go. So I'm just going to pop you down so that you can see. And what I'm going to do first of all is take this mount off, and I've got my sewing machine set up with a brown thread in it, and I'm just going to set it up now onto a zigzag, but quite a narrow zigzag, probably about 1.5, possibly 2. And what I'm going to do first of all is to put the stems in place. So we're going to start upside down and we're going to put the stems in. So I'm just going to start here, and I'm just going to do these 2 to start with. So with free motion zigzag, you just have to go very slowly on the hand so that you get a nice thick stem, and then you need to just when you get to the top, just do a little wider bit of zigzag to get that nodule that you get just underneath the top of the actual poppy seed head itself. So I'm just going to make a start now. You don't want it too wide, so this is 2 on my machine and this is fine. I want to speed up a bit so that I get it a bit smoother. So I'm just going to come back down that a little bit. There, and then I'm going to increase that probably to about 4, just to do the wide bit. And we'll take it down to 2 again, and then I can bring it over here to do the next one. So exactly the same, following the line. This way you get a thicker stem, because poppy seed heads do tend to have quite thick stems on them. Just increase that wide a bit, and then decrease it down to do the small bit again. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to use my 505 spray. I'm just going to spray the backs of a couple of these pieces of fabric that I've cut out, just a light spray. And then if I pull this forward, I can pop this one just on the top of where my seed head stem is, just about there. Just got to get the angle right so that it looks like it's blowing in the wind. And then the other one can come down here like this and pop that down there. So now what I need to do is I need to change my stitch to a straight stitch. I bring that down and zero out the length like you would for normal free motion sewing. And then I'm going to bring my foot down And then I'm just going to go round this probably twice, just round the edge. It holds it in place and the colour of the thread will actually define what I'm doing. You don't have to follow the line exactly, in fact it's probably better if you don't. And then I'm going to go over to this one and do exactly the same. I can just cut that and bring it out. So I'm just going to cut in between those there. That's brilliant. So you can see there that that's 2 done like that. And then I'm going to change my thread a second. Just do a slightly darker stem, because obviously not all stems look exactly the same. So this is just a slightly darker brown I'm putting in here. Thread that through. Right, and then I'm going to stick on the other 3, but not until I've done those stems. So exactly the same principle. I'll probably just do a couple of those just so that you can see. So again, we're going on to a zigzag, probably about maybe slightly finer for this one, so maybe 1.5 for this one, and you just start to come up. Finish that. And then I'm going to come down here and try and join these 2 in so that this one comes off of the other one. Fine. And then I'm going to take the 2 pieces that I'm going to use here and just stick them down. Again, making sure that they tilt nicely. Just going to have to bring that up and move that out so that they come in at different angles like that. Now then, for these, I'm now going to put it onto straight stitch, and for these, instead of going round the outside, I'm actually going to do some lines up and down to give the impression when the seed head has dried that the soft bits in between the sort of the skeleton of it has disappeared somewhat, and you're left more with the skeleton shape. So I'm just going to show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to go up like that. And then we're going to go over here and do exactly the same. Lovely. Just clip those off and cut all these bits in between. So you can see here that these have got the lines instead. So what I'm going to do with these bits is just to use some vintage lace and just cut out, if you can see me cutting there, just that sort of nodule bit in the middle. These are just the right shape for doing the tops of poppy seed heads. So we'll just trim that down round a bit. Like that. And I've got one over here that I trimmed earlier as well. I'm just going to pop those on just like that. Now you don't want them too high up. You also don't want them to stick to your fingers. So you can see that those are now in place there. So just a little bit of cream thread or a little bit of clear thread in your sewing machine and just stitch round, and that will actually secure those in place. And then for these other ones over here, what I'll be doing is using these beautiful little vintage linen buttons, and I'll be hand stitching those on. So that's what I'll be doing there. So if I can just reach and get my mount a bit. There we are. Now obviously this isn't finished, there's going to be a lot more going into this, but you can see already how that is starting to take shape, and that's two different ways that you can represent the poppy seed heads. If you didn't want to actually put the fabric underneath before you did those lines, you could actually just do the lines alone, and that would be absolutely fine. Probably just draw them on first, but I just felt with the background that I wanted to make them stand out that little bit more. So I'm going to be adding a little bit more to this, and then I shall probably put the finished piece up on my social media later. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this, and I'll see you again soon.